Welcome to The Honest Media. I'm your host, Tom Papperts. Why does Donald Trump seem to lag behind Hillary Clinton in some polls, while he's tied or beating her soundly in others? The answer may surprise you, unless you paid close attention to the primaries. The Benghazi revelations were shocking. We now know the extent of Hillary Clinton's incompetence, and just how far the Democrats and the media will go to minimize the issue. What else might they be hiding? Speaking of Hillary, she and the Democrats recently decided the public relations campaign protecting Islam from any sense of responsibility is more important than the lives of homosexuals. What's the result? Well, let's just say gays aren't stupid people. And Bill Clinton met with Attorney General Lynch recently. The two claim they didn't discuss anything regarding the impending case against Hillary, but ensuing actions by the Attorney General suggest otherwise. Did Bill Clinton threaten her? But first, let's talk about these polls. It seems every other day a poll is released directly contradicting the previous poll. One will indicate Hillary has a large lead against Trump. The next will suggest they're tied, and then another will suggest Trump is beating Hillary beyond the margin of error. And then the next week starts and the cycle begins. Hillary's beating Trump, cries the mainstream media. No, they're tied or Trump is winning, says the alternative media. What the hell is going on? Well, it turns out it's not that complex. I'm a mathematical moron, but even I can verify what the Gateway pundit recently reported using nothing more than the calculator on my iPhone. Reuters interviews 1,201 respondents, 626 Democrats, 52% of total, 423 Republicans, 35% of total, 122 independent, 30 other party, and that's nearly 33% more Democrats than Republicans. In reality, Gallup reported in March that 46% of Americans are Democrats and 40% are Republicans. Reuters freighted their poll with 20% more Democrats than Republicans. So they're stacking the polls to get the results they want. The dishonest media is full of liars who will do anything they can to manipulate the public. And now that the primaries are over, their cronies on social media, Facebook and Twitter namely, are backing them by making these polls trend. So is this surprising? Well, you tell me. From February 18th of this year, NBC reports Donald Trump falls behind Ted Cruz in national NBC Wall Street Journal poll. Wow, that's not good. Well, what happens when the popular blog Conservative Treehouse decides to examine the polling data and the individuals behind the poll? Well, from the Conservative Treehouse, this poll is not data from a valid polling organization. It's from a PR firm, a firm that contracts with the government known as Public Opinion Relations. NBC, Wall Street Journal take the PR firm data and sell it as if they themselves, the media, conducted the poll. They didn't. Conservative Treehouse continues, the technique the media uses is the same as all previous attempts and carried the same basic elements in its delivery. Number one, the polling sample size is heavily manipulated and intensely small. This national poll is based on 400 contacts. Number two, to hide what is transparent in number one, they do not reveal the polling methodology or internals. They hide the poll data. Number three, to protect their lack of integrity behind the integrity being fully dismissed, they use multiple disclaimers. Number four, agenda pollsters have a history which evidences the first three elements, meaning they are repeat offenders. Number five, and lastly, yet again, an agenda poll doesn't match anyone else's polling. It doesn't even remotely pass the proverbial sniff test. So this is nothing new. The dishonest media, the lamestream media, the soon-to-be fossils who spend the entirety of their day high-fiving one another for jobs well done, have a history of pushing their bad polls. They did it with Cruz, and if we go further back, I can show you where it happened with Jeb, then Marco, then Cruz, then Kasich, and now Hillary Clinton. Don't trust their lies. Do not trust their deception. I won't promise I'll always get the facts straight, but I do promise I will never willfully deceive you. And that is what separates the alternative media from the mainstream media. That is what separates the dishonest media from the honest media. What do you think of this pathetic corruption? Let us know. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or send me an email. I'm Tom at thehonestmedia.com. I'll be back with my co-host, Craig Chrysler, after the break. Welcome back to The Honest Media. I'm Tom Papper, here with my co-host, Craig Chrysler. So, we previewed it in the intro, and this is from Gizmodo, and it's a little bit dated, but it's still completely valid because we now know that Facebook goes even further in manipulating trending stories. They ban pages who don't support their preferred person, which they claim not to have a preferred person. But April 15th, 2016, Gizmodo reports Facebook employees asked Mark Zuckerberg if they should try to stop a Donald Trump presidency. This is Zuckerberg. I hear fearful voices calling for building walls and distancing people they label as other, Zuckerberg said, never referring to Trump by name. I hear them calling for blocking free expression, for slowing immigration, for reducing trade, and in some cases, even for cutting access to the internet. So when he talks in public, he's a little bit subversive like this, which anybody with a brain knows exactly who he's talking about and what he's saying. But inside Facebook, the political discussion has been more explicit. Last month, some Facebook employees used a company poll to ask Zuckerberg whether the company should try to, quote, help prevent Trump in 2017. And what this is part of is part of a poll that Facebook does once a month among its employees on what they want Zuckerberg to talk about, or what they want to ask Zuckerberg in an upcoming Q&A. And a question from the March 4th poll was, what responsibility does Facebook have to help prevent President Trump in 2017? And a screenshot that, it was dated by the time it even got out there, shows it as the 5th most popular thing to ask in the poll. And at the time, there was only 61 Facebook employees, 61 of Silicon Valley's elite, who thought that this was a good idea.
Jeez.
And of course, you go to the law behind it, and the law is basically, First Amendment, it's a private organization, they can do whatever they want. But the question to me really is of ethics, because if we sat here and we weren't the honest media, we were the objective media, and we were supposed to be looking at everything with clear sight and not trying to push anybody out there. We're not Republicans, we don't care. But then we go and we do things like behind the scenes, we have our editors say, hey, what can we do to prevent that Hillary winch? It wouldn't work that way. That's unethical, that's frowned upon in the media. And when something like 61% of adults get their news from social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook's a third of the internet traffic.
It's a third of the internet, and the other 2/3 are porn. so really, they've got an ethical responsibility to
So it's basically 100% of people's information.
Really,
on the internet.
It is.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Twitter's up there too.
Yeah.
But Twitter does their own manipulation. They'll just outright ban you if they don't like what you have to say.
Yeah.
Or shadow ban you where your tweets don't appear in news feeds.
Yeah, we see that happen all the time to people.
Yeah. And it takes them a while to figure it out. I mean, Twitter is possibly the only social media company that is more anti-free speech than Facebook.
Well, if you look into it, Twitter was developed and funded by the CIA, so there's no big surprise there.
Well, talk about that. I didn't know about that.
Well, I don't know. That was revealed a few years back. I don't know if they actually started it, or as soon as it began, they got their hands in it as a way to control the public narrative.
Well, I do know. I mean, there's one guy who is possibly the best provocateur in the alt-right, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah.
And
the Centipede?
The Centipede. And he used to be a Twitter verified account, right? And so they took away his Twitter verification.
Oh, did they?
They took it away a long time ago. And done quietly. Actually, it was done because he released a poll pretending to be the Breitbart social justice correspondent, or not Breitbart, BuzzFeed rather.
No,
which I mean, never going to happen in 100,000 years. It's a joke. It's obviously a joke.
Yeah.
And then he released a poll saying, "What would you rather your child have, feminism or cancer?" And cancer was by and large the winner. Therefore, feminism is cancer. So they took away his Twitter verification. Then they decided that he was going to be shadow banned, so he would be seen much less in news feeds. You would basically have to seek him out to see it. And then recently, for his posts about gays in Islam, which really became an important topic after the Orlando terror attack, they took him down. They just outright took him down for pointing out that Islam has a problem with gays.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then they put him back up. And then did you see they took him back down?
Well, Facebook and Twitter was banning tons of pages if you just mentioned Islam right after that.
That's very true. Whether it was
because it's not radical Islam. We're at war with it's the American people with guns.
That's right. It's the NRA. It's those jerks with their rifles and their love for America and the Second Amendment and their understanding of the Constitution.
Not people with suicide vests running in the airports blowing everybody up.
No. Blowing their own people up, proving that there is no loyalty between sects of Islam.
Well, these people can't get along with each other where they live. They've been at constant war since the dawn of time.
And Hillary Clinton
Let's bring them all in so they can blow us up. That's
not just a few either. Hillary Clinton, based on the data compiled by Breitbart, based on Department of Homeland Security data, she wants to bring in 374,000 Syrian refugees or asylum seekers from the Middle East during her first term, 420,000 refugees or asylum seekers from the Muslim world in general during her first term, 560,000 permanent migrants from the Middle East during her first term, and 730,000 permanent migrants from the Muslim world during her first term.
So that's 2 million or over.
Yes. Essentially, we're talking 2 million.
Yeah, and from what I understand, there's already 6 million in the country right now.
That sounds about right. And if you look at the data, it's 1 in 10 has sympathies for ISIS. 1 in 10 in the Muslim world.
Oh, I thought it was way higher than that.
It probably is. So I'm going with the most liberal.
I've seen something like 75%.
I could say. Well, I know that I think a 75% wants Sharia law. I think that's what the data.
Well, that's a commandment of Islam. You have to enforce and try to put Sharia law in wherever you go.
But think about this. So you go to Halloween with a little kid, and you go to 10 houses, and then you find out one of those 10 houses gave a poisoned piece of candy. Do you give the pumpkin to Junior and say, you got a 1 in 10 shot, you'll be fine? I mean, of course not. It's logical to just say, nope, never mind, not going to happen, throw the candy out, no more candy in this house.
Yeah. So we're looking at 10 million people, 6 million right now, which 15% of them are easily terrorists. I think that's
potentially.
I think that's on the low end of the polling, 15%. That's a huge number.
But that's, you can't point this stuff out because then you're anti-American. They all try to make this case that to be pro-American is pro-unrestricted immigration from countries that hate us.
But they don't want us to know this going back to Facebook, how they're covering all this up.
That's
and
right.
Twitter.
You post this on Facebook, you get your post taken down. You post it again, you get your page taken down.
Yep.
Never trends. I remember the day of the Orlando shooting, it took over 24 hours for Facebook to put it in the trending stories. Meanwhile, everybody is posting about it. Everybody's commenting on stories about it. People want the information.
Yeah.
And Facebook claims it's all done by an algorithm with a couple people who curate the algorithm. And yet nothing appears because they don't have a way to spin it because it wasn't a white male with an NRA membership and a manifesto.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with more after this break. Welcome back to The Honest Media. I'm Tom Papperts. You may notice my outfit changed. No, I'm not that conceited. You see, we recorded this episode, the majority of this episode, before Independence Day, so we could take some time off to celebrate the birth of our nation. And, as is often the case, while we celebrated, the powers that be plotted. Only days after Bill Clinton met with Attorney General Lynch to discuss grandchildren and golf. only days after Lynch then promised she would act strictly on the recommendations of the FBI. On Saturday, July 2nd, the FBI conducted a 3-hour interview grilling Hillary Clinton. On July 4th, Independence Day, as the nation celebrated its birth and independence from a tyrannical government that did not represent its interests, the FBI mulled its decision, a decision that would be announced the following day, July 5th. And make no mistake, July 5th is a day that will live in infamy. It is the day the federal agency charged with keeping those in the highest positions of power accountable chose to sit on its hands and do nothing. Of course, I refer to FBI Director James Comey's decision not to recommend prosecution against Hillary Clinton. Comey spent 15 minutes telling us how utterly incompetent and moronic Hillary Clinton's email servers were. They had no full-time security. They were never handled properly. They were hackable by anyone. Comey's specific phrase was, less secure than Gmail. He said she had no permission to set up and use these email servers. She knew she had no such permission. He said she used unsecured mobile devices to send secret information. He said she used these unsecured servers and mobile devices to send confidential, secret, top secret, classified information. He said she used them to send emails above top secret. Over 2,000 emails fall into these categories. Comey suggested these emails represent a crippling blow to national security. The Iranians, they could have these emails. The Russians, yes, them too. ISIS, not outside the realm of possibility. China, more likely than the last. The FBI admits she leaked this information, but it says it wasn't intentional. It was because she was too stupid to understand email. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. Even pretending this is true. Since when is ignorance an excuse to break the law? If you drive down a residential street going 80 miles an hour, are pulled over, and then claim you were only being careless and didn't know the repercussions of your actions, do you avoid the ticket? I don't think so. If you get blackout drunk, then get behind the wheel and kill a family of 4 and claim you didn't know the effects of alcohol, does that mean you're not guilty of killing the family? I doubt it. If you have an unsecured flash drive with top secret information in your desk, and some of this information may or may not get leaked, but you had a security guard standing nearby to prevent thieves, does that make the leak less egregious? Well, when it comes to General Petraeus, the verdict is no. If you think you're doing the right thing by making Americans aware of mass surveillance of themselves on behalf of the NSA, while also, possibly inadvertently, providing information about how the NSA spies on foreign nations, thus compromising national security, does that make it okay because you thought what you were doing was right and didn't consider the implications? When it comes to Edward Snowden, the answer is, again, no. It's not a stretch for me to say Hillary Clinton's gross incompetence represents the biggest blow to our country's national security since Edward Snowden's security leaks. But Snowden can't come home. He's living in Russia, an expat. Who knows, he can never come back home without facing serious jail time, possibly a lifetime of jail time. But Hillary Clinton gets to go free. I'm going to share a darker theory, a theory I personally believe is true. It has little to do with the apparent incompetence of the FBI, which is a disgrace to our nation. But rather, it has everything to do with Hillary's love of money and for covering her tracks. This is only a theory. I don't claim it is the truth. But it makes a lot of sense and explains how the former First Lady, the former Congresswoman, and the former Secretary of State could be so utterly stupid when it comes to technology. Here goes. I believe Hillary Clinton knew exactly what she was doing. Every decision she made regarding her email server was intentional and calculated. She used an unsecured email server so she could sell United States intelligence information to the highest bidder. If she merely slipped documents into the hands of our enemies, it would be traceable, trackable. Someone would rat. Documents would be revealed. Coincidences would become too unlikely. Instead, when whatever bidder, whether it was Saudi Arabia, Iran, Russia, China, or anyone else, paid for a piece of information Hillary Clinton would merely include it in an email. An email that anyone with somewhat advanced computer knowledge could find. An email anyone in the IT field could retrieve with basic knowledge and some spare time. An email that a computer-savvy 12-year-old could retrieve. We know Hillary Clinton enriches herself at the expense of our nation. She has it down to a science. How can someone so intelligent, a lawyer, a congresswoman, a secretary of state, possibly not understand the security implications of a private email server with no security staff set up in a bathroom? The answer is obvious, and it's right in front of us. She knew what she was doing. She used the server to sell out our country once again. And thanks to the FBI, she's getting away with it. She's getting away with more leaks than Edward Snowden, because Snowden didn't provide documents directly to Russia. She's getting away with more leaks than the Panama Papers, because the Panama Papers didn't sell their documents. She's getting away with more leaks than Julian Assange of WikiLeaks, who is rotting away in an embassy, fearful for his life if he were to so much as step outside. Hillary Clinton is so full of hubris, she thinks she is getting away with selling United States intelligence that could potentially have affected the lives of our soldiers and the fate of our country to the highest bidder. And unless Trump wins, that's what's going to happen. She'll get away. But if Trump wins, we may have another shot at justice. I'll be right back. Welcome back to The Honest Media. I'm Tom Papper here with Craig Chrysler, my co-host. And we said we'd talk about Benghazi, and I don't want to just repeat what everybody already knows about Benghazi. I don't necessarily want to focus on the report. We're trying to get Mike Pompeo here in studio, and he can tell us a little bit more about the report and his feelings regarding Hillary Clinton's utter incompetence. What I want to talk about is what nobody else is talking about with Benghazi, such as from the Daily Mail in 2012. This is an old report, but again, nobody's talking about it now.
Yeah, pretty important stuff.
400 U.S. surface-to-air missiles were stolen from Libya during the Benghazi attack and are now in the hands of Al-Qaeda, according to a whistleblower. From the article, 400 American surface-to-air missiles were taken from Libya during the terror attack. An attorney who represents the whistleblowers claimed on Monday. So, fast forward, not too far though, because May 19, 2016, in Al-Ayadiyah town of Talafar district, our fighters downed an American drone this morning, ISIS military leadership published. So, because of Hillary Clinton's incompetence, or because of what we might expose here in a moment, they're now able to take down our drones. Obama's entire war on terror is dependent on drone warfare. And they now may have up to 400 missiles. You were saying earlier you read another report. How many were you saying? Well,
I've seen reports that there was over 20,000 assorted missiles, like surface-to-air missiles, MPADs, anti-tank missiles, at that installation. There was 3 warehouses of munitions that all got
meaning Obama's drone warfare is essentially going to be rendered useless. That was the one.
Not only the drones.
We can't land tanks.
Commercial airliners.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens here. They're probably already in the country when all of them start showing up in the hands of terrorists throughout Europe and the United States. And
I still have questions about Egypt Air. Everybody says it was likely a explosive that was brought onto the airplane. That's what everybody says. Maybe it's true. Maybe, the people said that it's likely the guys handed off a suitcase, briefcase, laptop bomb, something like that. Who's to say, though, same part of the world, it wasn't one of these between 200 and 20,000 surface-to-air missiles.
Yeah, and the other disappeared Malaysian aircrafts that nobody knows what's happened to.
That's right, that we now say, well, we found the wrecked plane, and it was likely just a mechanical, blah, 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 blah.
Well, that was one of them. The one of them totally disappeared years ago. And
that's true.
Still nobody has any idea.
Well, that was the one I think they found. They found a part, and they said, well, that's probably it. What do you know?
I found a pop can floating in the air.
Well,
Yeah, but that's a huge deal. Minimum 400 surface-to-air missiles.
And you got to ask, why were these surface-to-air missiles there? Well, for that, we'll go back to 2012 in the Business Insider. The U.S. effort in Benghazi was at its heart a CIA operation, officials briefed on intelligence told the Wall Street Journal. And there's evidence that U.S. agents, particularly murdered U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens, were at least aware of heavy weapons moving from Libya to Syrian rebels. Syrian rebels is the antiquated term for what we now call ISIS.
Yeah.
These weapons were presumably from the Gaddafi stock of about 20,000 portable heat-seeking missiles, the bulk of which were SA-7 surface-to-air anti-aircraft missiles. What's odd is that a Libyan ship, which reportedly weighed 400 tons and included SA-7s, docked in southern Turkey, which we know is complicit in moving Daesh ISIS oil from the Middle East to Turkey so it can be sold to the rest of the world. Docked in southern Turkey on September 6th, and its cargo ended up in the hands of Syrian rebels, who we now call ISIS. The man who organized that shipment, Tripoli Military Council head, worked directly with Stevens during the Libyan Revolution. Stevens' last meeting on September 11th was with Turkish Consul General Ali Sait Akin, and a source told Fox News that Stevens was in Benghazi to negotiate a weapons transfer in an effort to get SA-7 missiles out of the hands of Libya-based extremists. So there's more going on. That's not in the report that was just done by Mike Pompeo, who is he's a decent congressman. He's about as decent as you can get without having billions at your disposal like Trump. That purely focused on Hillary Clinton and her complete falling asleep at the wheel during this matter.
Yeah, with the 600 requests for help.
Right.
Yeah.
And she just sat and did nothing.
So what you basically have is a CIA outpost. That's exactly what that was. And all around there, where they were funneling arms and munitions to what is now known as ISIS. And from what I know, that Stevens was wanting to put a stop to that, actually. So that's why they let him bite the dust.
Well, and this is part of what Trump talks about when he says, we fund these people, we give them weapons, then 6 months later, we're fighting people who have better weapons than us.
Yeah. They were, because they all have our weapons, actually.
That's
they
right.
got the same weapons.
They have our weapons, or they have Gaddafi's weapons, which were American weapons, because before Gaddafi was our enemy, he was our great ally. He was the only thing keeping the migrants from Africa from reaching
hanging
Europe.
out at the White House like 2 months before they had him killed.
Right.
Which that was the CIA that had him killed with weapons funneled into there just like that.
And on that note, you mention CIA from Infowars.com. Yet the committee omitted all facts relating to the circumstances surrounding the Benghazi attack and the CIA's clandestine arms smuggling program to al-Qaeda-linked rebels fighting to overthrow the Syrian government. As Kurt Nemo reported, a number of guests appearing on The Alex Jones Show following the attack built an indisputable case that the CIA was shipping arms from U.S.-controlled facilities located at the U.S. mission in Benghazi to its mercenaries in Syria, and the murder of Ambassador Stevens was carried out by an al-Qaeda-affiliated group as part of a turf war between the CIA and elements in the Pentagon. Which is totally believable. Because before ISIS was our enemy, everybody knew we were funding them. There's pictures of John McCain with one of their fighters acting like they're great friends and great
with several of them. That was a prominent fighter.
It was one of their I think he's dead now. I think he's been since killed by United States attacks. Because, where would we be if we weren't constantly fighting the people who were our friends 6 weeks before?
Good old CIA. You know their acronym for the CIA, what they worship?
What's that?
It's called God. Gold, oil, and drugs.
Well, you've got a point there.
Like, soon as they took out Gaddafi, they went in there, there's pictures of it, took all of his gold, which was a tremendous amount.
Well, they stripped the wealth of Libya. They took all the money out of Libya. They funneled it into wherever they thought it would be best allocated. And Libya, which once used to be a half-decent place to live if you were forced to live in the Middle East.
Oh, it was an amazing place.
It's now without a government, more or less. There's a government that controls a couple of the main cities. The rest is completely controlled by warring tribes.
It's a hellhole now.
It is. That's the only way to describe it. Yeah, if you're a woman, God rest your soul, you can't go to school. You can't go out without your husband. You can't go out dressed like a normal human being. You can't go out and drive a car. You can't get an education. Thanks, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll have more after this break. Welcome back to The Honest Media. Hillary Clinton recently decided that the public relations campaign promoting, not all Islam, well, it's just a couple of minorities who really, they're the ones who blow themselves up and hate everybody who's not a Muslim. She recently decided that was much more important than the lives of homosexuals when the Orlando terrorist attack happened and 49 people lost their lives, countless more probably still lay maimed in hospital beds waiting for the bad news. She came out and she said, "Oh, what a terrible attack." And you know what the result of that was? Almost overnight, she lost a third of her support among the gay population, among the LGBT population. Just overnight. Because they're not stupid people. And now that they're able to get married, really, that was the main thing that Democrats had that Republicans weren't going to bend on. Now that that is law, nobody's going to come back and reverse that. They have no reason to keep being Democrats.
Yeah.
And they're going over to the other side.
Yeah, there's nothing left.
And this is completely the reason why. They're not stupid people. They're not just Democrat pawns like welfare recipients are.
Yeah.
10 nations where the penalty for gay sex is death. And this is on 76crimes.com. Nations with laws on the books where executions have been carried out. Iran, and guess who the second one is?
Saudi Arabia?
You got it. Second best ally, Saudi Arabia. Nations with such laws on the books, but no recent executions have been reported. Now, that's where the emphasis needs to be reported.
Reported, yeah.
Sudan, Yemen. Nations with such laws on the books in part of the country, but no verified executions for homosexual activity. Nigeria, Somalia. Nations with such laws on the books, but, again, no executions reported. Afghanistan, gee, did that name sound familiar? Mauritania, Pakistan, and Qatar. Nations with no such laws on the books, where executions are carried out by militias and others. See if this one rings any bells. Iraq.
No.
Not recognized as a nation, carries out executions. Daesh / the Islamic State. The people who Omar Mateen, I used his name, the loser terrorist SOB, pledged his loyalty to, as he killed 49 gays. They kill gays.
Yeah.
Nations where such law was
compassionate, remember.
It's compassionate. That's right. That's right. The month before. Maybe 2 months.
Don't feel bad about it,
2 months before.
It's good for him.
An Islamic scholar from Iran, where we just said, yes, that's where they kill him.
How many billions did they just get from Obama's government?
Oh, what was it? I don't know.
Like 150 billion?
I think that's right. And it's
more?
gone. And it's totally gone.
I wonder what they're doing with that money.
Well, they must be using it to increase the civil rights for the LGBT
It's funny how we never
communities.
hear about Iran anymore when that was such the bad guy.
The only one who you hear it from is Donald Trump. He's the only one who'll still talk Iran.
Yeah.
But you're right, that was the bad guy. Now we just funded the bad guy, made them so they can buy whatever they want from whoever they want, which is Russia, by the way. They're buying weapons and munitions from Russia.
Seems to happen a lot, don't it?
Well, that's kind of how it works with our government. But moving on, the next name, which is where a law is scheduled to take effect this year, and probably has, may not, we don't know, we don't have people on the ground. Brunei, where Hillary Clinton gets her jewelry from, where Hillary Clinton gets massive donations to the Clinton Foundation from.
Yeah.
But she's a friend of women and gays.
Oh, yeah.
And then the last one is a nation where some existing interpretations of the law would provide the death penalty for homosexual same-sex relations is the United Arab Emirates, which is, again, loves Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know that stuff happens because I've seen lots of videos of it on the internet.
Well,
Women
that's
getting
right.
stoned to death.
And you can post
beaten,
that on Facebook. You just can't point
beheaded.
out that they're Muslims.
Yeah. And in Saudi Arabia, don't they still chop your arms and hands off if you get caught stealing?
They do.
And everything else.
It's barbaric. They don't allow non-Muslims in. They don't let women drive. They don't let women go to school.
Yeah.
They don't accept refugees.
And if your wife or girlfriend or cousin sleeps with another man,
you kill her.
you kill her. It's
That's
not the
the
guy's
punishment.
fault she'd with you. You just kill her.
Well, and what's even more
you dishonored our
egregious,
family name.
if the woman is raped,
Yeah,
same
that's
story.
that's what I was wanting
Same
to say.
story.
If you're raped, yeah,
Same
it's your
story.
fault.
It's the woman's fault.
It's death penalty.
But in the West, we call that victim blaming. We say it's disgusting. It's a relic from our past. Nobody believes that anymore. It's long gone. The legal system is fair now. We respect women. We have no fault divorce. But Hillary Clinton, who gets millions and millions and millions of dollars from these crooked people, from these disgusting excuses for human
Yeah.
beings, she claims to be the great friend of women and gays.
Oh,
They're not
no.
stupid people. I mean, the only
She is, if you put it in the Islamic term, friend compassionate. We're going to kill y'all.
Well, but and that's true. Whenever she
Yeah.
goes there, she's the first one to don the Islamic attire and cover her face as
yeah.
they request. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to my theory, which a lot of people share. It was popularized, to me at least, by Stefan Molyneux of freedomainradio.com. They need the votes. And the only way they're going to get the votes to get what they want, which is North American Union, end of the Bill of Rights, end of free trade,
Which,
as we know
yeah,
it.
speaking of, Obama and Canada's guy and Mexico guys just met the other day.
Well, and Canada just said that they would relax their restrictions on Mexican immigrants. So basically, they don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But, they're going to have to get through the 48 continental United States continental United States to get to Canada. So I'm not too worried about it. I think our Coast Guard will take care of it if they try to go around. But Hillary Clinton claims to be a friend of these people while she takes money from the people who want to kill them.
Just more lies.
And it's because they need the votes. It's the only way
Yeah.
they can get what they want. They bring these people in who are going to vote for them, and they have this illusion that it's all just going to work out, that they're going to become productive taxpayers, that they'll become productive members of society. And it has not worked like that once in the last 750 years.
Yeah. It's never worked like that anywhere in the history of the world.
The only time it has is when you bring people into your culture who already share similar cultural values.
Yeah.
People love to say, well, immigration made this country great. If
yeah.
you look, it's
legal immigration.
legal immigration from countries that had morals that were in line with our own in a time without the welfare state.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that when we come back, because the welfare state, similar morals, similar backgrounds, doesn't matter if they're brown, green, yellow, tan, whatever, as long as they have those three things,
Yeah.
immigration almost always works out.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. Find us online. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. You can email me, tom@thehonestmedia.com. And we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to The Honest Media. I'm Tom Pappert, here with Craig Chrysler, and we're going to talk about what makes immigration work. Because immigration can work, it's worked in the past. But it comes from societies that have similar IQ ranges. It comes from societies that have similar cultural backgrounds. It comes from societies that generally are pro-democracy. And in order to be pro-democracy, you need to have an IQ of about 90 to 95. The immigrants from the Middle East, and it's not saying all Middle Easterners have this IQ, it's saying that by and large, there's always exceptions, there's always exceptions that prove the rule. By and large, the immigrants coming in from the Middle East have an IQ of about 80. And that's tragic, that's sad. We don't know how to increase IQ. Science hasn't got that far.
Well, most people are so-called refugees, so,
Right. And you cannot dare question that. You have to just accept it. And so when you bring these people into the nation, your nation's IQ, just by virtue of mathematics, goes down as a whole. When your nation's IQ goes down as a whole, well, suddenly democracy stops working so well. And democracy may not be the perfect form of government, but as somebody else said, it's the better when you compare it to all others that have been tried. When you lose democracy, well, let's look at what happened in Germany. You get a dictatorship. Things are not good.
Yeah.
So it's when people say immigration, we need immigration, that's fine, but you have to correct them.
Which we really don't.
I don't think we do. The other thing is the
what
welfare
benefit does this country stand to bring these people in?
If we screened people and we brought intelligent individuals in, we were very discerning about it, people who are not going to end up on welfare, which, by the way, upwards of 60%.
Which we already do bring intelligent individuals in all the time via the college and all that program.
But then often
they turn around and leave.
Well, not only that, we make them turn around and leave. I've known an individual. I've known him here. He worked on another project here at the station, and he was from Spain. And he came to the United States to do his college education, and then when he finished, they told him he had to just pack up his bags and go. If he wanted, he could try to apply for citizenship, but that's not.
And was his college all a free ride?
Well, he had scholarships, but he paid for a great deal of it. I mean, it costs more when you come from abroad. And part of it was he comes from a relatively wealthy family that saw the writing on the wall of what was happening in Spain, and they thought, well, let's see if we can't pack Junior up and get him a good education. And he did video here. He did a little bit of video for another show we used to produce many years ago. And when he left, it was like, well, so much for that.
Yeah. And that was legal.
It was completely legal for him to come over here.
Now they're wanting to bring millions of refugees in. You're talking, despite all the cultural differences and everything, exactly why? What benefit does that do to this country? There's
the people of this country?
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah,
our welfare goes up, more people on welfare, our cultural becomes less homogenous. Yeah. But if you're a Democrat, it's good to have people vote for you.
But can these people even vote? Are they legal voters now that they're in the country?
It's a step in that direction. And they become it's like everybody always likes to do that argument. And I say, well, nobody likes the slippery slope argument when it comes to guns, but when it comes to immigrants, there's a lot more credence for it because, well, we have to have amnesty for these people, but it's not the same as citizenship. Well, then they're one step from citizenship. Not only that, they're kids. Because of our ridiculous policy of if you spit out your child on United States soil, they're a United States citizen, their kids become citizens.
Anchor babies,
that's right.
And why are illegal immigrants allowed to get driver's licenses and welfare?
The argument is it's better to have them documented like that than undocumented.
It's ridiculous.
It is absolutely
If they're
ridiculous.
illegal immigrants,
60% of
why are they getting free money from taxpayers?
That's right. Well, because they paid sales tax, right? That's a giant fallacy in and of itself. But 70% of illegal immigrant households depend on welfare. 60% of Hispanic households depend on welfare, compared to something like 30% of the domestic population. It's totally insane. But in the old days, when immigration worked, which we can make several arguments, but we didn't have this ridiculous welfare state that could take care of you from cradle to grave. So many immigrants would come to the country, they'd stay here for 10 years, and if they couldn't make it work, if they couldn't get a good job, if they couldn't get a business set up, couldn't buy a house, they went home.
Back home,
to where their families lived, to where they had support.
Yeah, there's a famous saying, you can't have a welfare state and open borders. It's one or the other.
That's right.
If you have open borders and no welfare state, just like I said, they'll come here, they can't do it, they're gone. Going back home to their families and support system.
Is that Rothbard who said that? I want to say that's Rothbard. Ludwig von Mises, maybe?
I can't remember.
One of the two. One of the great libertarians. And that's what annoys me when it comes to the Libertarian Party, which now says we need open borders, which now says freedom of movement is a plank of libertarianism. It's like, that's only true if and only if you don't have a welfare state.
Yeah.
Because then it works. Then because there's no incentive to stay. There's no way to allow people to stay indefinitely the way they now do.
Yeah, what are these people going to do if there's no welfare? They come here.
They find out that the job market is hard, that we've got these liberals who have no idea how to run the economy, that we're getting ready to go on to another great recession that will probably make the last one looks like child's
Most
play.
of them now are already violent criminals in the first place.
And if we would just,
and they're getting free money, and they're still violent
criminals. There's all
criminals.
the time these stories of violent criminals attack so-and-so, somebody might even end up dead. And because of Obama's policies, we can't just get rid of these people. They drive them 50 miles to the next city, they stop the van, let them out.
See you in a week.
Over. That's right, see you in a week.
Yeah.
See you in a week. And that's why people don't like Sheriff Joe Arpaio, because he gets rid of them. he's the one of the few people, or else he'll do anything, he'll make them want to leave.
Yeah.
They end up coming back to his prisons over and over
Bring
again.
you back and put you in the pink panties.
That's right. That's right. He doesn't. I watched an interview with him about this. He doesn't even understand that there is psychological precedence for that, and there are now drunk cages all throughout the United States that are just completely pink because it makes them more docile. It makes it very difficult to get angry if you're just surrounded by pink.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
makes sense. Yeah.
well, common sense, the common sense by Sheriff Joe actually is probably keeping the
Yeah, he's had all them
down.
prisoners wearing pink panties and socks for years and years.
That's right. That's one of his ways to give it. Because and what he said in the interview is it's literally because these people are so classless. They would steal the underwear when they were getting out of prison.
Oh,
They
yeah.
would steal the tidy whities.
That's how it started.
That's how it started. So the solution is nobody wants to steal pink panties.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It really is.
We were talking about why these people don't assimilate well. You can't bring people in your culture that don't assimilate well. They share none of our values. I mean, it's completely polar opposites. It's night and day.
That's exactly
They will
right.
not mix. They don't want to mix. They're not going to mix.
And
They're
that's
just
why
gonna-
all throughout Europe.
They're going to try to take over, impose their Sharia law, kill us all, and Allah Akbar, here we go.
And that's why all throughout Europe you have growing no-go zones where
Rape
Europeans,
epidemics.
where Europeans are not allowed.
Yeah.
And it's
Police don't go.
It's in London, it's in Brussels, it's all over the place.
Mhm.
And if we're not careful, Hillary Clinton's going to bring it here.
Yeah.
That's about all we have for this week. We could talk for hours about this, but unfortunately we only get an hour a week. So, to continue the discussion, find us online. Look us up on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Email me directly. That's tom@thehonestmedia.com. I'm Tom Pappert.
I'm Greg Chrysler.
We're The Honest Media.